Why is your mind always in conflict? Why do we constantly feel torn between what we want and what we should do? Between fear and desire? Between love and attachment? Between what we are and what we think we should be? Jiddu Krishnamurti spent his entire life asking this exact question. Not just asking it, but living it. And what he discovered is uncomfortable, because it challenges everything we've been taught. Let's slow down for a second. Think about your own life. How often are you anxious because you're trying to do the right thing, but you're not even sure what that is? Or feeling guilty because your actions don't line up with your values or society's expectations? This internal tension, that push and pull, is conflict. And we've been trained to think it's normal, part of being human. But Krishnamurti says, it's not. He believed that conflict isn't some natural burden we have to carry. It's the result of a divided mind, a mind that's always comparing, judging, labeling. You want to be successful, but you're afraid of failing, so you try to push through the fear. Act confident. Visualize the best outcome. Yet deep down, there's a knot in your chest. You feel stuck. That's conflict. You say you love someone, but you're afraid to lose them, so you become possessive, controlling, insecure. Again, conflict. Krishnamurti asks, why is there a division at all? Why is there a you that wants one thing and another you that resists? The answer? We've built an image of ourselves, an ideal, an idea of what we should be: smart, strong, kind, successful, loved, and we constantly compare our real self to that image. But here's the truth. That image is fake. It's a story, a mental projection, created by society, family, religion, social media, and our own fears. When you compare what is with what should be, you create conflict. Not just emotional conflict, but psychological suffering. Krishnamurti said, to understand the mind, you must watch it, not judge it, just observe. Try this. Next time you feel anger, don't label it. Don't say this is bad or I shouldn't feel this way. Just look at it. Watch it like a storm passing through. That space between you and the emotion, that's awareness. And in that awareness, something powerful happens. The conflict starts to dissolve because you're no longer resisting. You're no longer caught between two versions of yourself. You're just present, and presence doesn't have conflict. But here's the catch. This isn't easy. Most of us live in our heads. We're constantly analyzing, comparing, chasing the next goal, or escaping the last mistake. We think peace comes when we fix ourselves. But Krishnamurti flips that idea upside down. He says peace comes when we stop trying to become something we're not. When we stop chasing the ideal, because becoming is conflict, being is freedom. Take a moment to let that sink in. What if you didn't need to become anything? What if the way out of conflict wasn't to win the battle in your mind, but to step out of the battlefield entirely? It's a radical thought, but it's also deeply liberating. So next time you feel torn, overwhelmed, divided, pause. Ask yourself, am I observing or am I judging? Am I seeing clearly or am I stuck in an image? This awareness, this observation without judgment, is the first step toward real freedom. Not the kind of freedom someone gives you, but the kind you discover for yourself, when your mind is no longer at war with itself. And that is what Krishnamurti meant by peace. And once you taste that kind of peace, even for a moment, you begin to see how noisy your mind usually is. You start to recognize just how much energy we waste trying to control everything. Our emotions, our thoughts, other people, the future. We're constantly chasing an image, running from fear, trying to hold on to pleasure. And all of that creates conflict. Krishnamurti didn't give step-by-step techniques. He wasn't selling a method or a belief system. He wasn't a guru who wanted followers. In fact, he once said, "Truth is a pathless land." What he meant was this: Truth isn't something you find by following another person. It can't be taught. It can only be seen, directly, by you. In the mirror of your own mind. So when you feel inner conflict, don't rush to fix it. Don't reach for a motivational quote or a new self-help book. Sit with it. Watch it. Be honest with what's there. Ask yourself, why am I divided right now? What am I afraid of? What am I trying to become? You'll be surprised how often the answer is, I don't know. And that's okay. Krishnamurti didn't say you had to solve the conflict immediately. He said you have to understand it. And understanding only comes through observation, not analysis. When you analyze, you're still inside the mind, still using thought to try and fix thought. It's like trying to clean a muddy window with more mud. But when you observe, silently, without resistance, the mind begins to settle on its own, like a stirred-up lake eventually becoming still. And in that stillness, something magical happens. You begin to see without distortion. You begin to feel without fear. You begin to live without inner division. Krishnamurti's entire teaching could be summed up in one simple idea. Freedom begins when conflict ends, not because the outside world changes, but because your relationship with your own mind changes. And this freedom, it doesn't come from achieving more or becoming someone better. It comes from seeing clearly. It comes from dropping the illusion of the ideal self and meeting yourself exactly where you are. Now let's be clear. This doesn't mean you stop growing. It doesn't mean you stop learning or changing. But the change comes naturally, not from pressure or fear. It comes like a flower blooming, not a machine being forced to perform. Krishnamurti once said, "It is no measure of health to be well adjusted to a profoundly sick society." Let that sink in. So much of our inner conflict comes from trying to fit into systems and beliefs that are already broken, trying to live up to standards that were never yours to begin with. Maybe the problem isn't you. Maybe the problem is the image you were told to chase. And maybe the answer isn't to become more, but to simply see more clearly. When you begin to observe the mind, the fear, the desire, the constant inner chatter, without trying to change any of it, something shifts. You begin to notice the space between thoughts. You begin to rest in awareness itself. And in that awareness, conflict loses its grip. Not because you fought it, but because you no longer feed it. So if your mind feels messy today, don't panic. You're not broken. You're human. And in Krishnamurti's words, the ability to observe without evaluating is the highest form of intelligence. Try it. Just observe. No judgment. No story. Just watch your mind as it is. That simple act may be the first real step toward peace. And maybe that's the most powerful thing Krishnamurti gave us. Not answers, but clarity. He never told you what to think. He simply invited you to look honestly, to see the messiness of your own mind, and not run from it. Because what you avoid controls you. But what you see clearly, without fear, that's where freedom begins. The mind is always in conflict when it wants to be somewhere else, when it resists what is, when it compares, divides, clings. But the moment you stop running, the moment you turn and face that tension directly, something changes. You realize that conflict only exists as long as you believe you need to become something else. Let go of that, and you let go of the war inside. Of course, this isn't a one-time thing. You don't watch your mind once and become enlightened. It's not a trick or a spiritual shortcut. It's a way of living, a different way of seeing. Every moment, the choice is there. You can go back into the noise, into striving, comparing, judging. Or you can return to silence, to observation, to presence. There's no roadmap for this, no checklist, no guru to follow, because no one can walk this path for you. That's why Krishnamurti said, the moment you follow someone, you cease to follow truth. So let this be a quiet reminder. You are not your thoughts. You are not your fears. You are not the conflict you experience. You are the awareness behind it all. And the more you rest in that awareness, the less control conflict has over you. Don't fight your mind. Don't escape it. Just watch it. Lovingly. Gently. Like you'd watch a child learning to walk. And with time, with patience, that space between thoughts begins to grow. That silence between reactions begins to deepen. And in that silence, life unfolds more freely. Not perfectly, but peacefully. So if today your mind feels like a battlefield, don't worry. You're not alone. We all struggle. We all forget. But every moment is a chance to begin again. Not by doing more, but by simply seeing more clearly. This is the heart of Krishnamurti's teaching. That clarity is liberation. That truth isn't somewhere far away. It's here, now. In the way you listen, in the way you observe, in the way you choose to meet your own mind. So take a breath, let go of the fight, and just watch. That might be the beginning of real peace.